Hey, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening to whoever you are. How is everybody? No, our good friend Mellows is not here yet. Um, he is still sleeping, but I was bored and I decided to jump on and do a live. We have lots of veterans, and we have an oversight committee that is doing a oversight on Veterans Affairs, and I thought I would live stream it for us. Hello, Jen. Hello, Nathan. How are you guys? I've been watching you guys, even though I don't chat a lot in your stream, but I watch you guys. Always watch you guys. But yeah, we have an interesting oversight committee to do with our veterans here. So I thought I would play our for our veterans. It's a subcommittee to do with our veterans. Oversight investigation into our veterans. So I thought I would play it for us, but it looks like we're having a problem with it. There's no source. Evidently, they're having a problem with it. So we'll see if it comes back. Four Corners, Miles High, Full Court Press, a bunch of them were down in New Mexico. So make sure everybody jumps on to Four Corners, Miles High, and all them to support down in New Mexico. And support them down there. For one of the 1A auditors is in jail down there. So please, everybody, support Four Corners down there. They need all the support they can get down there. So that they have all the support they have down there. So please, everybody, support them down there. I don't know what's going on with that hearing. But it is not showing up. But please, everybody, make sure you support Four Corners. Also, Bear Britain Audit has a fundraiser going on his channel. Somebody lost their home. A couple of people lost their home. So please, everybody, jump over to Bear Britain Audit and show some support to Bear Britain Audit. He has a fundraiser going on. So please jump over to Bear Britain Audit. Doesn't look like they're coming back. I can't get them up. Doesn't look like they're coming back. So, yes, as always, everybody jump over to Aussie Nathan's channel. Aussie Nathan is great content every day. He is always giving content on his channel. From Australia down under. Nathan has great content on his channel. Nathan has great content every day and great pictures of Australia, all over Australia. He's great content. So make sure you jump over to Nathan's channel and subscribe to Nathan's channel. He has great content every day coming out in Australia. Let's see what I can find, since they don't seem to be wanting coming back.
All I hear is new chain, big house, fast car, it's so boring. And all of that is lies, man, it's so corny. Death threats coming every other day for me, but I don't believe a word, that shit is ghost stories. Hi, my name is Mellows, welcome to the show. If you are easily offended, then you probably should go. My resolution to lose is who my new music is triggered. And just 1 million views on YouTube is 2 big middle fingers. I don't apologize or compromise, I quantify the figures, cause I'm optimized for making a killing and getting bigger. Had to fire all along, I needed fuel in the flicker to light the fuse to the mixture of the rumors and liquor. They got nothing else to do but try to cut me with scissors. But what's a blade to a building made out of iron and pillars? Go ahead and cry me a river, cause I've been dying to go swimming. And I'm decided to find it funny when they whine, cause I'm winning. I just tell the truth, it's up to you to love or dismiss it. I'm just pointing out what I feel that the game has been missing. And every time I open my mouth up, you get offended. You say that talk is cheap, but then you act like it's expensive. You can't afford to speak your mind, afraid you'll get rejected by some strangers on the internet whose lives are all pathetic. I was surrounded by people who just pretend to be down, and then I blew up off a record. No one's friends with me now. But I hear's new chain, big house, fast cars, so boring. And all of that is lies, man, it's so corny. Death threats coming every other day for me, but I don't believe a word, that shit is ghost stories. Hi, my name is Mellows, welcome to the show. If you are easily offended, then you probably should go. My resolution to lose is who my new music is triggered. And just 1 million views on YouTube is 2 big middle fingers. I apologize and compromise and quantify the figures, cause I'm optimized for making a killing and getting bigger. Had to fire all along, I needed fuel in the flicker to light the fuse to the mixture of the rumors and liquor. They got nothing else to do but try to cut me with scissors. But what's a blade to a building made out of iron and pillars? Go ahead and cry me a river, cause I've been dying to go swimming. And I'm deciding to find it funny when they whine, cause I'm winning. I just tell the truth, it's up to you to love or dismiss it. I'm just pointing out what I feel that the game has been missing. And every time I open my mouth up, you get offended. You say that talk is cheap, but then you act like it's expensive. You can't afford to speak your mind, afraid you'll get rejected by some strangers on the internet whose lies are all pathetic. I was surrounded by people who just pretend to be down, and then I blew up off a record, no one's friends with me now. You say that talk is cheap, but then you act like it's expensive. You say that talk is cheap, but then you act like it's expensive. You can't afford to speak your mind, afraid you'll get rejected by some strangers on the internet whose lives are all pathetic. I was surrounded by people who just pretend to be down, and then I blew up off a record, no one's friends with me now. No one's friends with me now. Can't afford to speak your mind, afraid you'll get rejected by some strangers on the internet whose lives are all pathetic. I was surrounded by people who just pretend to be down, and then I blew up off a record, no one's friends with me now.
And we're going to play a little bit of Aussie Nathan.
When the numbers you always record, just no disguise, he captures the lies.
Sure, people doing it. Yo, what up, good peoples? Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, make sure to like, share, subscribe. We're here at Redfern Police Live Action, and they all running scared. See you on the next one. The dirty looks, broken tail lights, that's a defect. How's their tyres? Let's check their tyres, guys. Oh, you got brand new tyres on the back. You got broken tail lights, sir. That's a ticket, Inspector. Why are you allowed to ride around with broken tail lights and nobody else is? Pardon? What? You're not sure? Because you're above the law, right? Well, why do you do it? You get government funded. Why don't you actually pay to get fixed before you drive around and make an example of people doing it? Like, tyres are good, here. Good. That's pretty shitty house, man. Like, you got broken lights on the car you're about to drive. That's a defect. No, thank you. I wish I could ticket you. I do, because you deserve a ticket. You're the inspector and you're about to drive a vehicle that's got defected lights on the back. Why are you doing it? Well, the car's running, your keys in the ignition, that's running, and then you're driving it. No, it's not. Is the car moving? So you're allowed to use your phone with the keys in the ignition. Pardon? I made my point, all right, like, that's pretty bad. If you guys would find somebody driving around without that, like, cover on the light, well, maybe you should get out of that and jump in the fancier one where it's... Yeah, well, maybe you should. Inspector? What was your name, Inspector? Webster. Pleased to meet you. And yours, sir? Constable Athens, nice to meet you. But I think you should do the right thing and hop out the vehicle, get that fixed, and jump in one that's roadworthy. Otherwise, I'm going to keep recording you, and then I'm going to put in a complaint that you're driving an undefected vehicle. So I think you should turn it off and put up your window. I like your style. You have a good one too. Get back to work. Get back to work. He's not going to drive off in it now. Good stuff. That's what I like to see. As long as you're out of the vehicle and you're actually going to drive one that's roadworthy. You might. Oh, that's right, you're above the law, right? But I bet you'd find me if I rode my electric skateboard down the road, wouldn't you? Yeah, you would, wouldn't you? Yeah, get back to work. Get back to work. Get back in your little dog box and get back to work, boy. Inspectors can't even handle a bit of grief from the public. Fix your cars, mate. Fix your car. Fix your car. Fucking rats. How was that? This piece of shit copper was about to drive around in a car with a broken light. Anybody else would be defected. He loves it, don't you? Check out Aussie Nathan on YouTube. I might hang around here a bit for a bit, guys. But I'm gonna push my skateboard like a. Is the engine hot? Yeah, let's go check. See how they run? See how they run from Aussie Nathan as soon as you come with the camera and you put it on them? Nah, it's cold. It's cold. It's cold. I'll give him that. It's cold. Maggots. Oh, beep, beep. You're right, fella. Take his plates. Oh, this is a copper's private car. This is what the coppers drive. Look at it. They drive weird nubbies around here. Good taxpayers' money. That learn them, mate. 100% learn them. He was going to drive off in that vehicle that's defected. Any other normal person get pulled over for that. Nah, let's get out of here before they lock me up, because I don't feel like being locked up. Let's go around the other side, but I'm going to rob this cunt too. Let's circle the police station. Hey, hey, wee. I didn't know cops were out here.
Good morning, everyone. The subcommittee will come to torture. That is Jamie Kern-Lima's podcast with Meghan Markle. It is absolutely torture. And this is part 2. So I did part 1.
He turned the lights off. He closed it down. The inspector shut it down. Is the door open still? Fuck it. Let's go in. And none of this is. Oh, he locked it down. He locked it down. Fuck. Come on now. They locked the police station. They locked the police station down. Oh, we can't. Yeah, they're watching on the cameras.
By suicide. That is sad.
Even turn the lights off in the lobby. Somebody give him a phone call and say, oh, Aussie Nathan wants to speak to the inspector at the front. It's windy, yeah, fucking hell, it's windy. You get that. Dirty dogs. Putrid pigs. What do you think about the police, mate? Any comment? Hey, Uber, fantastic. That's hungry panda. Come out and give me a ticket now. I dare you to. Come out and give me a ticket for my fucking skateboard. We'll see how good this going forward. Oh, look out, officer. Get back to work. Look at me like that. I can see you in plain clothes with your work boots. Have a good night. I'm not your brother, but Spectre, of all people driving that car, was it a Spectre? Spectre Gadget. Now this guy out the back there, he's like, I'll go out and arrest him. I don't care. I'll take the lawsuit. Let's go way up front. Let's go see if Inspector Maggot drives off in the vehicle. Good tyres. Good tyres. Go on, get to work. Get back to work. Oh, these guys don't know what to do with Aussie Nathan in the building. Oh, dirty ass. She's coming out to arrest Aussie Nathan. Ah, she wouldn't arrest me. Come back inside. Quick, get back inside. Get back to work. Holy fuck me. Run, piggy, run. Oh, guys, let's end it here. 77 likes. 69 people in the building. Everyone, double tap that screen. Let's get me up to 100 likes before I leave this police station. Bunch of pictures. Get back in your dog box. Wow. They all run scared from Aussie Nathan. Why? Come on, get back inside, she said. Come on, get back inside. Please take me back inside. I might circle this police station for another, like, 5 more times. This is great content. Get back inside. Oh. These cunts are locked down the whole police station just for Aussie Nathan. Let's circle this police station a couple more times. Here it is. Why don't they go out the other door? Fancy come out the other door. Oh, hey, you're stopping in front of me like that? Fuckers. Bring out the bear cat. Oh, wow. Not very good trying to cut off the police, mate. Fucking should have made them wait. What about everyone has to report? They locked down the police station, guys. They locked down the police station because Aussie Nathan is in the building. Yeah, I know. I don't even answer calls. Even in the report. I let him land at the door for him. Hey, I got the time out of my first one. I don't want to listen to no poop chat. Oh, what got hidden? What got the hide button? He was going home until I'm telling you now, he was going home until I pulled him up for this light. This is his home vehicle. This is what he drives home in every single night, guys. Let's go see what's on his computer. See what he left on the computer. I can't quite read that, guys, but if one of you guys can. That's Nathan's record. What's it say on the record? Told you I'd do a couple more laps. I need a cigarette, guys. I'm going to go sit around here on the chair, roll up a cigarette. Look out, go on, do a kickflip. For the people, come on. Come on, you can do it. Heel flip. Oh, close. Good stuff. Keep practicing, brother. Keep practicing, mate. Very good. Let me try again. We'll take his backpack off. Oh, more this one. That's the track. Oh! One more. Yeah, I record the cops. Fuck hell. Don't you like that? You're a hard-working lad. What do you think about the cops? She can't say it. One more lap. Let's see if we can get anyone else coming out the back. All right, guys, let's go get on the train. I don't think no one's going to come out here now. They're all shitting themselves because Aussie Nathan is in the building. Let's go get out of here. Let's head on to the next one.
Thank you, Ozzy Nathan. Thank you, Ozzy, for a great one. Okay, the subcommittee is there, so we're going to bring that one up.
Good morning, everyone. The subcommittee will come to order. I would like to welcome our witnesses, my fellow members in the audience, to this hearing of the Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigations. Today, we will dig deeper into VA's mental health policies to gain insight into the processes and quality.
Okay, the reason I am showing this, I am a mom of a veteran, and I am very interested in what's going on with the veterans, and I will play most veterans subcommittees in the committees on the veterans. So that is the reason why I'm playing this. Veterans, anything to do with the veterans, I will play. So this is very important and dear to my heart, and it is very important to all veterans. So please, please, please share this out. This is very important to all veterans.
Quality of care decisions regarding veterans' mental health care. From speaking with veterans in my district, it's clear that we have a lot of ground to cover to fix the mental health crisis in the veteran community. Of the concerns I hear most from veterans is how long it takes to schedule their appointments for mental health treatments. Delayed mental health care and the age of telehealth is well within our ability to address. Veterans deserve timely care. Despite the VA investing billions into PTSD treatment, suicide prevention, and alternative approaches to mental health, we continue to lose too many veterans to suicide. One veteran suicide is too many. In 2022, 6,407 veterans died by suicide. That is 17 veterans a day. Unfortunately, it does not stop there. An additional 20 veterans die by self-injury mortality, which generally means overdose. I've heard horror stories from constituents who have been prescribed pain medication and told to take more when they feel bad and less when they feel better. As a provider, I would not feel comfortable prescribing two medications that might interact with one another without first consulting a psychiatrist. This is unacceptable. It's impossible to cover every detail of every case, but we know that we are losing veterans. Despite a seemingly endless amount of resources spent, these numbers have failed to substantially decline. One veteran's suicide, again, is too many. These men and women volunteered to serve their country in a variety of roles throughout our armed services. They have answered the call to serve, and as a veteran and a nurse practitioner, it's alarming that we have allowed the VA to fail to move the needle for this long. We must do better. We've tried to throw more money at the problem. The VA's budget has risen 479% since 2001. And yet, despite a shrinking veteran population, the veteran suicide rate has remained virtually stagnant. Unfortunately, the VA's own numbers have only shown that they are doing less with more. This is not a question of spending more taxpayer dollars, but getting veterans what they need when they need it. Making progress means that we must take a closer look into the VA's bureaucracy and improve our oversight of the processes and policies that determine the quality of veteran mental health care. Suicide prevention and veteran mental health are bipartisan issues. Losing these veterans impacts red states and blue states. I hope this hearing will yield results to important questions about VA mental health care. How are these policies developed? What steps has the VA taken to adjust its approach? How does the VA use science and data to improve veteran care? And most importantly, how can the VA better serve the veteran? The answers that we hear today will inform our next steps to address these urgent issues. Veterans should not have to wait for mental health care, and it is our bipartisan responsibility to ensure the VA has up-to-date policies and is enforcing these policies to ensure no veteran slips through the cracks. Again, this is a bipartisan issue, and we cannot let politics stand in the way of making progress. There was spirited conversation during our last full committee hearing on the VA's workforce reform efforts, the impact the VA's workforce reform efforts would have on delivering mental health care to veterans. The Secretary has addressed this misinformation, and let me reiterate, no mission-critical employees, including those at the Veterans Crisis Line, have been terminated from the VA. I am committed to ensuring that the VA works for veterans and their caregivers with a functioning, quality workforce. That being said, I look forward to hearing from our witnesses, and I now recognize our ranking member Ramirez for her opening comments.
Thank you, Chair Kiggins. For many years, I worked at a homeless shelter where I saw cases of veterans confronting alone, without anyone to turn to, mental health challenges. Imagine, after wearing the uniform and serving our nation, these veterans were dealing in silence with the pain of PTSD, depression, substance abuse, and the risk of self-harm. So I'm really glad that today we're having this hearing to truly discuss the necessity of adequate mental health and suicide prevention screening for veterans. The topic of today's hearing really gets to the crux of why VA and this committee specifically exist. Our responsibility is to ensure that when veterans need help, they are connected to the clinicians who can provide the care and the services that they need, so that no veteran has to confront these challenges alone. That's why we cannot have a complete conversation about mental health and suicide screening at the VA if we're unwilling to also address the cuts to personnel and the resources the agency and the work environment clinicians are currently operating in. we have to look at the entire picture. You see, the mental health and well-being of veterans does not exist in a vacuum, especially when upwards of 30% of the impacted workforce are veterans themselves. The Musk-Trump fueled uncertainty and the chaos being created for veterans and VA staff impact the mental health and the well-being of veterans. We are hearing directly from veterans who are worried about losing their VA care because of the Musk-Trump cuts. We know veterans have lost their jobs across the federal government and are now facing the trauma of unemployment due to this administration. Research shows that unemployment and job loss puts individuals at increased risk of suicide. And let me tell you, being someone that ran a homeless shelter, who saw veterans who were unemployed, who had no housing security, I can attest to this. So it's really clear to me that we cannot have a conversation about adequate screening without also discussing adequate staffing across the VA enterprise. We can't talk about adequate intervention without talking about adequate investment. Psychiatrists, psychologists, primary care physicians, and medical support assistants have long been on the VA Inspector General's severe occupational staffing shortage list. It's easy to see how shortages of these positions, which directly coordinate and provide mental health care to veterans, would affect VA's ability to adequately screen veterans for suicide. And we have to talk about the work environment in which clinicians are now forced to provide mental health screenings and treatment since DOJ and Trump's April 15 return to office order that left facilities scrambling to find space for clinicians. We have heard report after report from providers who are conducting telehealth appointments in compromised conditions, from open spaces to closets to even showers. I can tell you, as someone who served as the executive director of a social service organization that served people experiencing trauma and struggling with suicidal ideation, a shower is not the appropriate place to have these conversations. Providers are worried about the privacy of veterans, about the comfort of the veteran in disclosing their needs, and about having delicate conversations in unfit environments. And they have every single right to be worried. It is unacceptable that clinicians are taking their screenings in a closet. Sadly, a VA spokesperson dismissed the concerns about veteran privacy as nonsensical, saying that the VA will make accommodations as needed so employees have enough space to work and comply with industry standards for privacy. But we're hearing directly from clinicians that those accommodations are just not happening. Hypocrisy is a word I feel like I'm using a lot these days. My colleagues cannot act concerned about the mental health of veterans while ignoring the mental health toll that the Musk-Trump agenda is taking on them and cheering that agenda on from the halls of Congress. I will close with this. I believe we have an obligation to ensure that every single veteran access the care they need and they've earned. Secretary Collins and President Trump have turned their back on LGBTQ+ veterans by shutting the VA's door to gender-affirming care, which in many cases includes mental health care. That too is unacceptable. If we want to talk about threats to veterans' mental health, we have to have an honest conversation about one of the biggest threats, and that is the Trump administration. Through their actions, they are creating the kind of anxiety, the uncertainty, the trauma and stress that directly and negatively impact veterans' mental health, their well-being, and their care. With that, I look forward to this hearing, to truly forgetting about R&D and putting our veterans first, and that also requires the veterans that are part of the workforce that protects our veterans. With that, Chairwoman, I yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member Ramirez. I will now recognize our witnesses on our first panel. Testifying before us today, we have Dr. Wiekers, the Deputy Executive Director of the Office of Mental Health of the Veterans Health Administration, the Department of Veteran Affairs. She's accompanied by Dr. Anthony Stazone, the Chief Medical Officer of Veterans Integrated Service Network 9 of the Veterans Health Administration of the Department of Veteran Affairs. We also have Dr. Julie Kroviak, Acting Assistant Inspector General for the Office of Healthcare Inspections of the Office of the Inspector General. Will all the witnesses please stand and raise their right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you. Let the record reflect that the witnesses answered in the affirmative. Dr. Wiekers, you are now recognized for 5 minutes to provide the VA's testimony.
For our veterans. My name is Ilsa Wiekers, and it has been my honor to serve the past 3 years as the Deputy Executive Director of the Veterans Health Administration Office of Mental Health. Joining me today is Dr. Anthony Stazzoni, Chief Medical Officer of the VA Mid-South Healthcare Network. I have had the privilege of working with and caring for veterans as a practicing board-certified adult and geriatric psychiatrist for the past 15 years. VA's mission to care for our veterans drives us to improve daily. Veterans face unique mental health challenges, including higher rates of PTSD, depression, and substance use disorders, all of which significantly elevate their risk of suicide. Currently, 17.6 veterans die by suicide every day, reflecting a grave public health crisis that impacts communities nationwide. While many veterans are successful and fully integrate back into society, some experience invisible wounds of war. Conditions like PTSD, depression, and substance use disorder, combined with the challenges of life after military service, contribute to an elevated risk of suicide. In response, VA has developed a broad continuum of mental health services to ensure veterans receive the help they need. This includes crisis intervention, same-day access for urgent needs, outpatient, residential, and inpatient care across VA medical centers, community-based outpatient clinics, vet centers, the 24/7 Veterans Crisis Line, and a nationwide network of suicide prevention coordinators, or SPCs. VA's mental health services are designed to be accessible, evidence-based, and recovery-oriented. We emphasize early intervention, continuous support, and seamless integration of mental health into overall healthcare. Most veterans utilizing VA services report positive experiences and satisfaction, appreciating the availability of essential services, the privacy of medical records, ease of access, and the professionalism and courtesy of our VA staff. In 2018, VA published the National Strategy for Preventing Veteran Suicide, emphasizing a public health approach to suicide prevention. This combines community prevention and clinical intervention actions to directly serve veterans. Our commitment to preventing veteran suicide is integrated throughout all mental health programs and supported by enhanced staff education in suicide prevention. The Secretary has made preventing veteran suicide a top priority for VA. VA leadership is closely examining all current suicide prevention efforts, and we are committed to challenging the status quo in order to find new and better ways of helping veterans. We cannot continue approaches that have failed to produce meaningful improvements despite substantial resource investments. Recent reports by the Office of Inspector General have highlighted VA's deficiencies in VA's mental health care intake process and adherence to suicide risk identification screening. These findings underscore the need to strengthen initiatives and ensure high-quality care. VA has implemented a standardized suicide risk screening and assessment process known as the Suicide Risk Identification Strategy, or RISC-ID. Completed annually for all veterans receiving VA care, this process includes a primary screen using a standardized questionnaire and a comprehensive suicide risk evaluation for any positive screen. This determines the severity of suicide risk and helps develop a risk mitigation plan. To ensure adherence, VHA issued a memorandum requiring all Veterans Integrated Service Networks to implement RISC-ID requirements by April 7, 2025. In fiscal year 2024, VA completed over 2.6 million suicide risk screenings. To stay at the forefront of suicide prevention, VA continually updates clinical guidelines and training programs. In 2024, VA and DoD released a new joint clinical practice guideline for the assessment and management of patients at risk for suicide. Additionally, all VHA staff must complete suicide prevention training. VA has also implemented specialty training for SPCs and mental health clinicians on topics like lethal means safety counseling, ensuring high-quality care for at-risk veterans. VA is taking decisive action to transform the department's mental health care system for veterans. The path forward requires VA to embrace innovation, accountability, and proven practices across every facet of its operations. Meaningful change requires collaboration within VA and with partners across government, private healthcare, and veteran organizations. This whole of society approach is essential to reach veterans wherever they may be. The oversight from this committee strengthens VA's work and helps ensure our focus remains on what matters most, providing veterans the exceptional care they have earned. VA looks forward to continuing to work with this committee, and we look forward to answering any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wiekers. Dr. Krobiak, you are now recognized for 5 minutes to provide your testimony.
Thank you. Chairwoman Kiggins, Ranking Member Ramirez, I'm grateful for this opportunity to discuss the OIG's independent oversight of VA's mental health services. The OIG recognizes that meeting the complex needs of veterans requiring mental health care comes with extraordinary challenges. The Office of Healthcare Inspections routinely assesses VHA's services and how well they address those challenges. Our clinical teams regularly make recommendations to improve VA's delivery of healthcare through reviews of mental health and suicide prevention programs, inpatient mental health units, reports of harm to patients at individual medical centers, as well as inspections of vet centers. OIG recommendations for corrective action are based on identified deficiencies and non-compliance with VA policies and established standards of care. As my written statement details, deficiencies can be grouped into 3 stages of suicide risk reduction interventions, with the first focused on screening and assessing veterans' risk. A December 2024 OIG review of VHA's suicide risk screening compliance found that in fiscal year 23, the annual adherence rate was just 55%. Interviews revealed that the reasons for non-compliance included staff feeling uncomfortable with initiating screening and lack of clarity for who should be overseeing the staff compliance. A tragic example of a failure to properly assess a veteran was documented in an OIG report that found a veterans crisis line responder did not fully assess a caller's alcohol impairment and access to lethal means. Shortly after the call, the veteran died by suicide. The second stage of risk reduction is the effective management of acute care needed after a veteran's suicide attempt or ideation. In 2 separate 2024 hotline reports, our teams found non-compliance with mandates to remove belongings from a patient that could be used in a suicide attempt, and with requirements for staff's one-to-one observation for a patient with suicidal ideation. In both instances, the veterans attempted suicide during their hospitalization, and tragically, one died. Our mental health inspection teams consistently review the environment and care practices of VHA's acute inpatient mental health units, repeatedly finding lapses in preparing patients for discharge. Because the highest risk for suicide occurs within the first 30 days after hospitalization, VHA staff should unfailingly carry out activities such as pre-discharge screenings, determinations of access to lethal means, and a suicide prevention safety plan to confirm that a hospital discharge is appropriate and safe for each patient. Third, while the tragedy of a veteran's suicide can overwhelm survivors and healthcare teams, lessons learned can and must support efforts to reduce future suicides. Our work has identified numerous delays and deficiencies in important internal VA reviews after a veteran completes suicide, including root cause analyses, peer reviews, institutional disclosures, and family interviews. Such delays not only impede improvements, but also deprive loved ones of important grief management resources. The last report in my statement was published just last month on the role of VISN Chief Mental Health Officers. Across these 18 regional networks, the Chief Mental Health Officers reported they lack clarity about their role and the authority to effectively address staff noncompliance. In effect, VHA's governance structure may contribute to problems with performance and hinder opportunities for process improvements. There will never be a single solution to the devastating problem of veteran suicide. Still, we must continue to work towards saving every life. That means not losing sight of what needs to happen today and every day, providing wraparound services that treat known risk factors for suicide, from prevention such as anxiety and depression management, substance use disorder interventions, PTSD and military sexual trauma treatments, and grief counseling. VHA providers must meet veterans where they are and be ready to effectively intervene during their greatest moments of need. The OIG is committed to conducting oversight to ensure all veterans have access to the high quality and compassionate care they need and deserve. Madam Chair, this concludes my statement, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Kroviak. We will now move to questions, and I yield myself for 5 minutes. I just wanted to start with you. You spoke a little bit, Dr. Kroviak, about staff noncompliance and about the VISN mental health chiefs being kind of frustrated with their ability to understand what their role is. And could you expand on that just a little bit? Because I know we've talked about that in different parts of this committee and what that looks like.
Yeah, I think there's this poorly defined or lack of clarity in what these critical leaders' roles should be. In place of just being a consultative arm, we just repeatedly find that when we're in a facility, if there's an issue brought up and we go to the VISN to understand their knowledge or interventions, they either weren't aware or felt they couldn't intervene because that wasn't in their authority to do so.
So would it be helpful to clarify that authority?
We think so. We very much think so. And, the one report on the chief mental health officer is one example. And we've published other individual hotlines where we really tried to get that message across, that it was concerning that the facility was undergoing such trauma and the VISN either didn't know about it or didn't effectively intervene or monitor the events that were occurring.
So the monitoring is there, but just the enforcement of what to do once they identify a problem, what's next steps they can take?
Yeah, it becomes unacceptable for this regional source to just serve in a consultative role. To wait to hear about the issue has been ineffective, and we've repeatedly identified that in reports.
Thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying that. And then we've all heard the saying, if you've seen one VA, you've seen one VA. And my concern here is that all VA facilities should be operating off agency-wide standardized policies for mental health. How is it that interpretation and adherence to VA's mental health policies vary so much between VISNs and facilities? Either Dr. Weikers or any of you can answer.
Of why is there variation? There are several possible causes for that. One could be that our policy needs to be better clarified and written more clearly, and that's something that I take personally to heart and that I'm working with my team as we constantly review and update our policies to ensure that we have clear language. The other could be about ensuring that there's clear training to help educate the field staff and our colleagues at the VISN level about that. We work hard to ensure we have those trainings available and that they're consistent across the system. We work closely also with our VISN partners and our facility leaders with open communication. We have regular meetings with our VISN chief mental health officers every week. And then the VISNs, and I'll let Dr. Stazzoni say more about the communication that they have regularly between facility leadership and VISN leadership. But I think it's a matter of ensuring we have clear policies with standard trainings and clear lines of communication. And we're working on all of those things thanks to the OIG providing us some opportunities and areas where we may have gaps to focus on.
Could that role clarification include role clarification at the VISN level, what Dr. Kroviak was just talking about?
Yes, and I'm pleased to report that Office of Mental Health has already drafted a functional statement and roles and responsibilities with our partners in the VISN Chief Mental Health Officer role, and we look forward to having that role clarity for everybody across the system in each of the VISNs very soon.
Thank you. Dr. Stazzoni, do you have anything to add?
No, I appreciate Dr. Weeker's comments. And as she said, at the VISN level, our goal is to make sure we have the policies from Office of Mental Health and also suicide prevention. We meet regularly with them, as well as in the VISN, we have regular huddles and also meetings regularly with the facility leadership to make sure those things are going forward. I think it's important that there is some standardization and understanding authorities across the network. As any healthcare network, you need to have standard processes and policies to follow through. And our goal is to make sure those are being followed through to the front lines. Healthcare is a very complex system, and trying to make sure we have the right processes in place to follow the policies to make sure our frontline staff can do the right things and follow through with those is critically important. And communication across the network, also up to central office and down all the way to the facilities, is key. And I'll speak with VISN 9. We try to do that as much as possible with our Chief Mental Health Officer, who reports directly to me.
So I'm just curious about the communication flow. I know in my district in Hampton Roads, Virginia, has one of the largest veteran populations, and just practicing in primary care there. And I know we had many patients who would receive some level of care at the VA because it entailed great services that they enjoyed, cheaper hearing aids, eyeglasses, medications, this type of thing. But then they would come to receive community care from different civilian providers. So one of my biggest frustrations was just trying to get patient notes and documents related to my patients, especially on the mental health care side, which I know there's certain privacy issues with mental health. And even from the civilian provider side, it was challenging to get notes and an accurate prescribing record, which I thought was perhaps most important too. But how does the VA work with community providers to make sure that information is shared so providers are making informed decisions about a veteran's, especially mental health care?
Thank you for that question. So the Office that oversees community care works with our third-party administrators in helping manage the network of providers in the community, and working together to get that information back is a key area that we need to focus on, and sure, for the reasons that you've mentioned, because that continuity of care and that information is really valuable for the providers back at VA to understand what's happening in the community.
And is there a person that goes behind and is doing that personal follow-up too with the veteran and ensuring that once they've left the office, just talking about continuity of care again, that piece I feel like is where we lose people a lot of times. Especially when we get them in the door, we have them seen, we have a plan of care, we start a new medication or have a follow-up visit, and who goes behind and makes sure that on the compliance side that is actually happening? Is there a process in place for that?
I'll have to take that back so that I can make sure I get you the most up-to-date information about that.
I've always been a proponent just on the personal side of it, using home health as a home health nurse, especially. I mean, I think there's a lot of benefit to a visit or two in people's homes. We've tried to mandate that or make that. It's hard. We don't have enough home health providers either, but I just think that piece, or what are we doing with that continuity of care piece? Because they go home and I mentioned in my opening statements just about veterans who taking multiple psych meds, and I know you all understand what that interaction piece looks like, and it frustrates me when I have surviving family members that will show me bags of medication that they don't know what this is. That was a combination of things that they would, again, take more if they felt worse and less if they felt better. And there was some disconnect between when these medications, a lot of disconnect between when these medications were prescribed, how they got to be lumped together, and that just goes back to the communication flow, which is a source of frustration for me. Again, on the civilian provider side, I think the electronic health record may be a helpful thing. We'll keep working through that, but just that communication piece, that follow-up piece, that continuity of care piece, along with role clarification and all the other things that I know you all are focused on and talking about, that piece is just important to me personally. And my time's expired for now. I'll yield to my ranking member.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I want to thank you all for being here again. Really appreciate it. Dr. Wiekers, I want to especially thank you for being here today. Behind me, in a moment, you will see are the instructions that accompanied a rubric VA supervisors were required to fill out, justifying why their employees should not be subject to the agency's planned reduction in force, or what we call the RIF. Supervisors, who are clinicians themselves and who manage employees providing mental health care, were obligated to fill out this rubric. And as I look at it, having been a manager myself, I find it absurd that the VA could measure mental health providers' value and justification through these very limited scales. Dr. Wiekers, these instructions require supervisors to provide 1 to 2 sentences explaining their special skills, their competencies, and their institutional knowledge for their positions. How would you fill out this for a mental health provider and the support staff the provider relies on?
Thank you for that question. I can't really speak to a hypothetical. I'd have to have an example of a specific individual provider to be able to answer the question, and I'm just seeing the information that you're providing now in terms of the details. So I would respectfully like to take that back, and would be happy to take any specific questions you have and report back afterwards.
So Thank you for that. And let me just be clear, Dr. Wiekers, this was provided to supervisors already. So this rubric is already available. And I'm concerned that you would not have seen it prior. But let me ask you this. Do you think 1 to 2 sentences fully capture a provider or their support staff importance to the mental health and well-being of veterans?
I think that our mental health providers are invaluable resources to our veterans. And obviously, the work that they do is complex and is something that is hard to capture in 1 to 2 sentences. But nonetheless, I can appreciate the need to have a rubric to make decisions.
So following up on that, the rubric is there. Supervisors have to take time to fill this out. Can you explain to me why supervisors, many of whom are clinicians themselves, were required to take time away from patient care to fill out this rubric? And let me add a little more. Some providers reported that they had to fill this out for over 300 employees, this rubric. And spending some time trying to figure out is how in 1 sentence at most, they could be able to explain the negative service impact of letting that staff person go. I just don't understand. Tell me, do you think it's a good use of a clinician's time to perform administrative tasks that justify the critical nature of their employee jobs instead of using their time to provide mental health care for veterans?
I think putting veterans first is the most important thing that any one of our employees does. And putting the ongoing and sustaining mission and the work that we do is what's most important.
I agree, Dr. Wiekers. And we're also here to discuss ways the VA can better screen veterans to ensure that no veteran dies by suicide. So I have another follow-up question for you. Will the VA provide gender-affirming care if it saves a veteran from suicide?
The department has made changes to provision of hormone therapy related to transgender patients, but those who have been receiving that service can continue to, as well as service members who are transitioning into veteran status who are eligible for VHA healthcare. All of our mental health services and preventive health services remain available for all veterans who are eligible for VHA.
So what you're saying, Dr. Wiekers, is that the VA will provide that gender-affirming care if it saves a veteran from suicide?
I'm saying that the VA is providing services based on the new policy, and that mental health services and preventive medical services remain available to all eligible veterans.
Okay. Well, let me pivot for a second here. I know my time is up soon. Dr. Krawiak, what are the top 5 clinical severe occupational staffing shortages the Inspector General identified last year?
Offhand, I don't know the top 5, but I do believe the top ones were nurses, physicians, mental health, in particular, psychologists and psychiatrists.
Got it. And since I only have 15 seconds, Dr. Wiekers, are you aware of the VA barring staff in the field from performing their assigned duties to do veteran outreach within their community? Yes or no?
I am not personally aware of that, but if you have examples, please
Okay.
share, and I'd be happy.
So just to wrap up, just to put on record, in Chicago, we know that the VA staff were told to no longer go out to the ward offices to do veteran outreach. And I guess my last question to you is, do you agree that meeting veterans where they are is a central component to suicide prevention?
Yes.
Thank you. With that, I yield back.
Thank you. And we're going to do another round of questions. I just have a couple more since we have a little bit of time. Dr. Wiekers, could you please explain what policies the VA has reviewed since January to ensure better communication and procedures for service members transitioning to VA care? I know we've had a change of administrations. We have a new VA secretary. What improvements have been made to care coordination between the DoD and VA? And what do you feel like we should be focused on moving forward?
Thank you for that question, ma'am. The VA is working closely with our partners in DoD on transitioning service members. That's work that's been ongoing for some time and continues to this day. I think ensuring seamless transition from service member to veteran status is important, in particular, ensuring that we have continuity of mental health care, especially for those who may be receiving medications or therapy treatment as service members, and ensuring that we get them transitioned as smoothly as possible to receiving those services at VA.
Is that happening? Is that happening where there's a flawless transition or a seamless transition with charting and records? And
We are working to ensure that it happens smoothly for everyone. We have lots of folks working together with our colleagues in DoD to help ensure that that's taking place.
Okay, tell us what you need and what we can be helpful with to make that happen. I think that transition piece is critical and challenging in so many ways, but I think with the mental health care piece, we should prioritize that, and we owe that to our veterans, especially now. Can you talk to me, Dr. Kroviak, about just staffing? Do you feel like there's issues with staffing shortages? Is that, there's a lot of talk, a lot of misinformation, a lot of fear mongering. I don't believe that. And then also, could you talk to me a little bit about your use of advanced practice nurses and if you feel like they're being best utilized in the mental health environment?
So in terms of staffing, you're right. We haven't seen the Secretary's plan for what the actual final staffing cuts or decreases in staff will be, but we report annually on critical staffing shortages. That's a congressionally mandated report. We're doing our work on that now, and that will be published probably by the end of the summer. Those are perceptions at each individual facility level as to what their most critical clinical and non-clinical shortages are. A reminder that, it is so important, the staff member that meets with the patient, but in that arrangement, there are multiple backstage staff who are coordinating so many activities to ensure the effectiveness of that meeting between the provider and the patient. The work we do on our cyclical reviews, hotlines, nationals, will capture when there are staffing concerns. We might go in for an allegation specific to substandard care and find out that the staff are reporting ineffective staff, too few staff, prolonged vacancies. So our work will continue to ask those questions, and we will absolutely report the findings. And in your question about nurse practitioners, we haven't looked specifically at their use or barriers to using them, more so in the mental health arena, but we know they are used across the system, and with the shortages of mental health providers within VA and without, I can't imagine that there's not an increased need to encourage their participation in that care.
Yes, and they're a great source of, if I might add, just of being able to fill those gaps in care. So, so please make sure we're utilizing all of our advanced practice nurses as well. And in Hampton VA, which is the VA facility near my district, a lot of challenges we're working through. But when I've had the opportunity to visit, and on the mental health care side, I think they do a great job, and I hear great things about that piece. There's some other pieces we could work to do better, but I'm thankful for that, and I hope that all VA facilities are prioritizing that care. I know it takes a team. This is not just a provider, but that's an important piece, and making sure our providers are supported is important too when we think about staffing. So that's good, and providing that reassurance. And I know Secretary Collins has done a good job throughout the country. Really, he's been down to Hampton Roads, but other places as well, just reassuring people that we're focused on staffing. We've picked up the phone and ensure we are focused. We are going to be protective of the actual provider piece, the nurses, the physicians, the allied health partners who touch our patients. So just, again, providing that reassurance piece, I think, is important. Wanted to have each of you, if you don't mind, talk about just alternative treatments for mental health. I think that everyone responds differently, and we have to meet the veteran where they're at. And we've done some discussions in this community or this committee talking about alternative treatments, from psychedelics to ECT to different. There's a variety of treatments out there. Can each of you respond just about how you feel that's going in the VA? Is there room for improvement? I feel like we need to do more, and probably quicker, about, again, meeting the veteran where they're at. What do they respond to? But I'm just curious as to your opinions.
Thank you for that question, ma'am. So VA has been growing its use of what we call the somatic treatments. So those are things like ECT, transcranial magnetic stimulation, ketamine infusions, and intranasal S-ketamine. Over the last 5 to 7 years, we've seen growth and expansion across the system. Could we do more? Yes. And we continue to try to expand access to those, both in direct care and also through referral to community providers. We have, as I know you are aware, we have announced an RFA for funding of psychedelic research, and that is something that continues moving forward at VA. We also have studies ongoing for stellate ganglion block, and other kind of emerging therapies as well. So I think we're doing a lot in the research space and the innovation space. And then in terms of our existing standards of care for difficult to treat depression, or other types of mental health conditions that fail to respond to initial courses of treatment, we have a menu of options available to veterans, and we're working on expanding access to those.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Dr. Weaker said, we look at evidence-based therapies to make sure we're doing the right things for veterans. That has been proven effective. There's lots of research in the VA as well. I'll say our geriatric research centers also have research into dementia and psychosis as well for mental illness in the geriatric population, which is important. At this time, treatment-resistant depression, I'll speak for VISN 9. We are trying to implement all 3 modalities of treatment: ECT, transcranial, magnetic stimulation, and ketamine infusion at all of our sites, so all veterans have access to the most up-to-date evidence-based treatments. I know there's much research going on, as Dr. Wickers already spoke about, and as those new studies come forward with possibilities, we will adapt those with evidence-based treatment.
I will say from an oversight perspective, nobody does mental health care like VA. They are absolutely pioneers in this field, and we are very encouraged by the previous ongoing and forward-looking research that continues. And I hate to say it, but we look forward to doing oversight work.
Good, I appreciate you're just always working to expand the treatment options for veterans, and on the geriatric side too. I mean, I think that's a whole nother discussion, probably for a whole nother committee, but I feel like there's not enough focus on that. Our veterans are older adults usually, and geriatrics is technically over the age of 65, so that's a large probably percentage of our veteran population. And I know, like at the Hampton VA, we had 1 geriatrician on staff, and that wasn't enough. And she had some great nurses working with her, but focus on that piece. And I thank you. I think we could always have more when we talk about studying dementias and cognitive impairment. That was my specialty as a geriatric nurse practitioner. But in my perfect world, yeah, we have a whole nother section of the VA that focuses on geriatrics. We talk a lot about mental health and another just personal passion project of mine, but on the geriatric side, we don't have enough advocates for older adults and their specific needs for the patient and for their families and caregivers. So we'll table that for now, but look forward to future discussions about taking care of our older adults. With that, I'll yield to my ranking member if she has any last questions.
Thank you. I just want to follow up. Dr. Wickers, as the chair mentioned in her opening, overdoses claim for too many veterans' lives. Do you think that Narcan saves lives?
Yes.
Will the Trump administration cuts to Narcan funding lead to more overdose deaths, including veteran deaths?
I can't speak to hypotheticals.
But you do agree that Narcan saves lives and we should have adequate funding to be able to continue to provide it?
I agree that Narcan saves lives, and the VA's overdose education and naloxone distribution program has been award-winning and has saved many veteran lives.
All right, well, let me shift here then for a second to talk more about it. Can you please describe the partnership between the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, or what we call SAMHSA, and the VA? Follow up with the second part of it. How does that partnership improve mental health treatment and support services for veterans?
What I can speak to is the partnership that I personally have been engaged with colleagues at SAMHSA in as it relates to ongoing work in our development of strategic plans for psychedelic treatments. And I believe that our partnership is strong, and the connection between our 2 agencies helps both SAMHSA and our veterans at VA.
Are you concerned that cuts to SAMHSA will affect VA's ability to provide services to veterans suffering from substance abuse disorder and other mental health challenges?
I believe that the VA will continue to provide high-quality access to substance use disorder treatments and for mental health treatments for its veterans.
Okay, well, let's get a little bit more into that. I want to know how you're going to do that. How will the VA fill in the gaps if SAMHSA is gutted?
I will have to wait and see. And again, I can't provide a response to hypotheticals. So we will adapt and ensure that all of our veterans continue to have access to SUD treatment and
Yeah,
mental
but
health.
Dr. Wiekers, I hear you say that you can't work on hypotheticals. You should be planning, as you're already hearing that there's going to be cuts to particular programming. And so for me, if we're having real conversations about ensuring that veterans have the resources they need, then you should already be planning accordingly on what you're going to do to fill those gaps. If you're telling me that you will be prepared to be able to ensure that veterans continue to get the resources they need. So it's hard for me to hear you say, we're prepared to ensure that we continue to provide the resources, we have the partnerships we have, but you're not doing any planning. And I think that's part of the challenges that we've seen, particularly in this committee, is that there is no adequate planning or even real strategic consideration when we're talking about letting staff go. I mean, we really have to be asking ourselves, when we're making these major decisions and shifts and changes, what will the impact in fact be for our veterans, and what are we doing in advance to ensure that the veterans that we say that we serve are not impacted by it? I have to say that as you say that, it's really difficult for me, because we can keep saying, well, I can't really plan on rhetorical, but if you're not actually planning for things you already know that are coming, then that's a concern for me, especially as we know how critical the work of this committee is in oversight. Let me come back to something real quick that I started talking about at the end, and with that, I'll yield back to the chair. I mentioned to you that the VA is barring staff in the field from performing their assigned duties to do veteran outreach within their community. On a number of occasions, we've invited the VA to come to some of the outreach events that we do, particularly around housing, healthcare, and other resources. So I submitted a letter March 6th asking why this is happening. You said you weren't aware that this was happening. I want to make sure that on the record, I know that I've submitted a letter over a month ago and I've not received a response. I wonder if by any chance, if you know that a letter was sent, and if you know there's any update on when I can expect a response.
Thank you for the question, ma'am. I will take that back and look into it and get you an answer as to when you can expect your response.
Thank you. Appreciate that. With that, I yield back to the chair.
Thank you. And I have no further questions. So Ranking Member Ramirez, do you have any closing remarks? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we have a new member just joining us, so we will recognize Congressman Kennedy for 5 minutes. And then we'll close.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for being here today, for your service to this country, for your testimony. Before entering public service, I served as an occupational therapist. My work focused on helping people navigate the challenges of daily life and understanding that health isn't just about physical recovery, but it's also about mental and emotional well-being. I saw firsthand how addressing mental health was just as critical as treating physical conditions. Without quality mental health care, true healing is incomplete. So our veterans deserve no less, as we know. And I'm deeply concerned that VA's mental health services are not meeting the rising demands of veterans. Because of reckless cuts by this administration, instead of much needed investment in our bravest, veterans are facing long wait times, workforce shortages, and barriers to accessing a full range of services that they need. If we're truly committed to honoring our veterans' service and sacrifice that they've made, we have to ensure quality, timely mental health support at the gold standard level of care alongside their physical care. And so with that, I have a few questions. First and foremost, the VA and this administration are now forcing employees, many of whom were hired as remote workers, to return to office. Dr. Wiekers, was the VA aware of the space constraints for mental health providers before ordering them to work in the office?
Thank you for the question, sir. So we have a process in place to review at each of the local facilities the space available before any return to office orders are submitted to employees to return. So the space available is being considered as we return people to office.
Is the agency concerned about HIPAA violations as providers have reported staff overhearing sessions and a lack of privacy after being placed in congregate settings?
All of our facilities and providers are held to the highest legal and ethical standards related to privacy. And we have processes in place should people be concerned that the space they have available is not suitable for privacy concerns for the care that they're providing. We have processes at each of the facilities that allow those staff to report those concerns so that they can be addressed and ensure that privacy of our veterans is held sacred as it should be.
Thank you. Dr. Wiekers, on March 4th, it was announced that the VA planned to eliminate over 80,000 jobs, which would certainly include mental health providers. Thankfully, that directive is now on hold. Since the VA is already facing a shortage of mental health providers, how does the department plan to provide responsive mental health services in light of these cuts? And were you consulted before the announcement of these cuts?
Thank you for the question, sir. So there are 30,000 frontline provider and staff positions that are exempt from the hiring freeze and other actions. And included on the list of those 300,000 staff and providers are all of our different types of mental health providers. So psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, marriage and family therapists, LPMHCs, peers, all of those folks and our frontline mental health providers are on the exemption list.
Is there hiring taking place right now?
There is hiring taking place right now, and I believe Dr. Stazzoni can speak for explicitly about Vision 9.
Thank you, Dr. Wiekers. Thank you, Congressman. Yes, as Dr. Wiekers said, 300,000 positions were exempted from the hiring freeze. There's ongoing hiring for those positions. In Vision 9, we have a dashboard for workforce management that lists the vacancies. We follow through with those and continue recruitments for all the frontline positions that have been exempted.
While there's hiring that is taking place, are these folks being onboarded?
Yes, Congressman.
Can you commit to sending this committee data on the number of employees and occupations that have been onboarded since January of this year?
Yes, I'll take that back, Congressman. For all employees, I can only speak for Vision 9, but there is a dashboard from workforce management. I believe they can get you those numbers.
I think it's vitally important that we have that data. It's one thing to make an argument that there are exemptions while there's tens of thousands of potential cuts. And we need to know what those exemptions are, where they are. We also, if there's an argument that there's hiring that's taking place, we need to know if those people are actually being hired and onboarded and put to work rather than just put into a process not to be brought on board. So it's a very important information. We would appreciate you bringing that to us. And Madam Chair, I yield back.
Thank you. And now we will move to our closing. Ranking Member Ramirez, do you have any closing remarks?
Thank you, Chair. I want to ask, as we're wrapping up, unanimous consent to enter a few news articles related to veterans' mental health into the record from Reuters, On Democracy, The New York Times, NPR, The Hill, Military.com, and NBC News.
So ordered.
Thank you. I would also like to ask for unanimous consent to enter 6 testimonials from veterans whose mental health is being affected by the cuts to the VA workforce and their ability to receive care.
So ordered.
Thank you. And I want to end by reminding my colleagues that in order to honor our veteran service with action, we must defend and protect their access to mental health services. And that starts by making sure that mental health providers are available. I look forward to our work and the follow-ups we'll get from the witnesses today. Thank you. And with that, I yield back.
Thank you. And for my closing remarks, I just want to thank the witnesses for coming in to testify today. We've gained better insight into the VA's mental health policies, the effectiveness of the services they provide to veterans, and how you're working to improve these processes. Thank you very much for clarifying about the mental health providers and partners that are exempt from cuts and hiring freezes. And we have said this time and time again, straight from the Secretary's mouth. Thank you very much for your presence here today to clarify that. We will continue to clarify that and to remind our veterans that mental health care and their health care in general remains a priority I have personally picked up the phone multiple times to ensure that these positions are not being cut, so I can provide some personal validation to that as well. But thank you very much for putting that on the record. We all know that while the VA has worked hard to provide support for mental health challenges, our veterans continue to struggle. We also know that providers are working hard, so I wanted to say a special thank you to them because they are often an underappreciated group. Our physicians, our nurses, and all of our allied health partners and their staff who work so hard every single day. We cannot let fear-mongering or partisan politics get in the way of achieving results for our veterans. It's one of the reasons I love working in the healthcare space. I feel like it should always be a nonpartisan issue. So I think that we should work to hopefully remember that, and hopefully we can get there. The VA must continue to prioritize a quality workforce that can deliver world-class mental health services and meet veterans where they are. We can no longer ask the veteran to navigate the VA's bureaucracy when what they need is help, and I know we're all working hard and have the same objectives here. It is essential that we have our veterans' backs and we reform our approach to improve the policy and services that the VA provides to veterans. Thank you all so much for taking the time to be here today, and I ask unanimous consent that all members should have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include any extraneous material. Hearing no objection, so ordered, and this hearing is now adjourned.
Sorry, but a hearing for the veterans, and that was one of the shortest hearings I've ever seen. Examining the VA mental health policies. You call that a hearing? Sorry, but our veterans deserve better than that. A whole lot better than that. I don't know what that is. I'm a mom of a veteran. I'm a mom of a veteran that has PTSD. I know what they go through. I know many veterans that can argue that our VA health is broken. Is so broken. The angry vet can contest that the system is broken. I can say it is broken. When my son can sit there and say, Mom, all they keep asking me the same thing over and 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 over again, and they keep causing his trauma. They don't help him. They just keep asking him the same question over and over and over again and keep rehashing the same thing over and over and over again. They don't help him get past it. And they wonder why our veterans aren't trying to commit suicide. Because they keep trying to hash it in. What happened? What happened? What happened? What caused it? What caused it? What caused it? They don't help them deal with it. And they keep pushing all this medicine on them, all this stuff on them. They're making them drug addicts. They're making them drug addicts. It's sad. It is so sad what our government is doing to our veterans, and then they are not helping them. They're casting them aside. My son got more help from the Wounded Warrior Project and their counselors than he did from the VA. And now their funding got cut. So he's lost his counseling from the Wounded Warrior Project. He's got to go back to the VA. And he's scared to death. Scared to death. Because the trauma is going to be built back, hashed up again. In a minute, Apollo. It's going to get hashed back up again for my son. And so many other veterans are going to be in the same boat because they're losing the support that they had. And it's Democrats don't care, Republicans don't care, independents don't care. I'm sorry. That's the way I feel. They don't give a shit. They're going to try to save the programs, but it's not what's helping the veterans because they're not looking at the real problems within the VA system. It's push pills, push pills, push pills, push pills, but they're not looking at the real problem within the VA system. And a lot of veterans will say that. They're not looking at the real problem within the VA system. The VA system needs to be overhauled and look at the real problems within the VA system. Hey, Brandon. The real problem within the VA system is the system itself. It's not for the veterans. They've got to look at the real problem within the VA system. You can't sit and order 20 pills for a veteran and say, here, there's the problem. And then you've turned them into a drug addict. And they say, oh, now we got to put them in drug rehab. Oh, we got to pull all their medicine from them because we created them a drug addict and let them go cold turkey. And then they're out on the street. You created that problem within the VA system. But you don't want to answer to that problem that you created to that veteran. You created that problem first when that soldier got injured out on that field and created that PTSD. Because I know so many soldiers that got injured, you patched them up and threw them back out on that field and didn't let them heal correctly. They got chronic regional pain syndrome. They got PTSD. And you threw them out on that field. They never healed. Now they're home. And now they have to deal with it. But you don't deal with their problems because you keep creating the trauma over and over and over and over again. They've got chronic regional pain syndrome. You throw them pills. You're creating the drug addict. They got PTSD. You keep saying, okay, what happened? You got blown up. Okay, what happened? You killed. Okay, what happened? What happened? What happened? And you keep making them relive that trauma. Instead of helping them get past the trauma. You want them to keep living that trauma. I lived that trauma. I live that trauma every day, not knowing if my son's coming home. I have PTSD from it. I woke up every morning at 5 o'clock, had my coffee, not knowing if from 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock if I was going to knock on that door. If 2 men in uniform were coming to my door every single day for 4.5 years when my son was overseas, then another 2 years when my son went back overseas, 6.5 years, I lived in that trauma. And I'm not the only mother. There's wives, there's children. There is so many people that have lived this trauma. And many mothers that had their sons come home with that flag draped coffin. Many wives, many children. And many have had that difficulty of watching their child afterwards take their lives. And yes, I am a mother that's gotten that phone call that my son has tried to take his life. And luckily, he didn't succeed. But I am a mother that knows that the VA's mental health policies don't work. That's why that committee hearing meant something to me. Things need to change within the VA. They need to stop pushing medicine that doesn't work in their brains. Hey, David, things need to change in the VA system that don't work at all. They don't know what's going in those veterans' heads. People need to stop and think before they run their mouths. Sometimes it's not the VA that helps them, it's all the other programs that help them, and let the veterans go outside the system to get the help that works. And the VA needs to pay for it. But no, the VA won't let the veterans go outside and pay for it. They want to control everything. And it's wrong. My son gets better treatment outside the VA than he gets in the VA. But now, because of the cutbacks, my son don't get it anymore. He has to go back to the VA, where he gets told, oh, you got to do this, 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 and this, or we're not going to help you. Correct. Pills help against the symptoms, but not the root of the problem. And all the pills do is make you an addict. And it's wrong. And my son doesn't want to be an addict. But all the government wants to do is push the pills. That's all they're doing, is pushing the pills. Push the pills, push the pills. Push the pills. Why not push the pills? And it's wrong to push the pills. So what do we do against the government and the VA? There isn't much you can do. The angry vet has been fighting against the government and the VA for I don't know how long. And my hat's off to the angry vet for fighting against them. My hat's off to the angry vet for fighting against them. Because I'll tell you, they're crooked. And it's funny because I've seen it. What's good in California and what's good down in Virginia, you can't get in California. It's available in Virginia, but you can't get it in California. You can't get it in Alaska, but you can get it in Virginia. Who's got the money to fly from California to Virginia? Who can fly from Texas to Virginia to get it? It's not fair to all the veterans. It's not fair. Just because you live in Virginia near the headquarters, it's not fair to every veteran. It's not fair. Just because you live in Virginia, you should be able to get it in California as well as Virginia. You should be able to get it in Florida as well as Virginia. Every VA should be equal. I don't care where you are. I don't care who you are. Every veteran should be treated equally and the same. I don't care if you were a private when you got injured, or a sergeant, or a 5-star general. You all should be treated equally because you all stood on that front line. You all stood together. And everybody should be equal treated in the mental health field. And stop putting them back in that same spot as when they got hurt in their mental health. Mental health matters to them, their families, and everybody that cares about them. Because we all love them. We love our veterans. We care about our veterans. Their moms, their dads, their sisters, their brothers, their wives, their children. We care about them. We're not going to give up on them. And it's time our government realizes we're not going to. And it's time the VA reevaluates their policies. They need to examine the mental health policies and start thinking of our veterans, not their pockets. And stand up for our veterans. Time for them to listen to the veterans and not to the politicians. They stood up for our freedom. Stand up for them. I'm going to end this because I'm getting a little emotional. Thanks everybody for joining, but I gotta take and end this.
This
This is your emergency broadcast system. All civil unrest has gone global. All Capitol buildings and cities are under siege by the United States government to quell the domestic terrorist threat. All residents of urban neighborhoods and cities are being ordered to stay in their homes until the threats are eliminated. If you disobey orders, you could be shot on sight by rogue agents, federal forces, and domestic terrorist militias. This is your emergency broadcast system. This is a national alert. Imminent threat is nationwide. You must stay inside of your homes or risk being shot on sight. The conspiracy is upon you. Your conspiracy friends were right all along. Now you must learn to survive. If you hear this, you are the resistance. This is your emergency broadcast system. End of broadcast.
War never changes.